This is Hadrian Radio, coming to you from Free Catalonia, a KA radio production.
This program is dedicated to the memory of Luis Maria Xirinacs. He was a candidate to the Nobel Prize in the Peace Movement. He was imprisoned by Spain and he did hunger strikes several times. He dedicated 35 years to the freedom of Catalonia. But most of all, this week, of all weeks, we dedicated to him because he wrote the book, The Betrayal of the Leaders, which has been showing to be the case in Catalonia this last week. We miss you, Luis Maria. We can do without the ones that are running us. This is chapter 31. I'm David Rabantos. This is Radio Hadrian here in KA Radio, the voice of new music. As always, thanks again for this opportunity to Cheryl Scott and to Delia Forrest that conspired to make this program come true. This week we're living difficult times in Catalonia. Well, it would be difficult times if we were not happy to be members of the Catalan resistance, because otherwise we'd be disoriented, pissed and sad, because independence would be going away from our hands. This week we're gonna tell you about why the victory of the Resistencia Independentista Catalana, the Catalan pro-independence resistance, is inevitable. Then we'll talk about the betrayal of the leaders. We'll make a brief comment about a guy called Marc Serra Parés, which is sponsored by Spain while he pretends to be pro-Indi. I'm sure you can find the equivalent in Scotland, and that would be an important thing for you to do. There are so-called social media leaders that pass as pro-Indi people, and actually they work for the other side. So they manage us to do what our enemies want, and it's very important to single them out. So in Catalonia, this guy is Marc Serra Parés. I happen to know him since 2010. He has been breaking up pro-Indi parties, and he is pushing people now to have a strike, which would result in benefit for Spain. And something slightly different, and which is relevant, and that I want to separate from the genocide and the murder of native Indians in both South and Central and North America, which is the discovery, though we know it's not a discovery because Native Americans lived in America, of course, and it seems the Chinese, the Vikings, and the Irish, and every man and his dog had already got to America before Columbus, or Colom, as his better said, had been there. But it's very relevant, the story I'm going to tell you about Jordi Bilbeny, a real Da Vinci Code character, which for 28 years has worked to unearth the real story about the real Catalan Colom, or Colom. I've been lucky enough this week to share some quality time with Jordi Bilbeny, and I want to share it with you. It's something very special, and I want to bring it out. As always, we're doing this to help Catalonia, but to help Scotland as well. Some of the things we're finding here we're gonna use in Scotland, and some of the people that are betraying Catalans are very nice friends with people who are bringing down the possibilities of Scottish independence. So with that in mind, we start. As we say, the victory of the resistance is inevitable. For 4 years, a group of people, a handful of people, have been fighting Spain with the objective of bringing about independence that we knew that they were murdering. And they have done all kind of things, as you know, the ones of you following this program, to shut us up. But now victory is inevitable, because first, every day we're growing, we're getting new members of the resistance. Every day we're preparing a documentary, a book, a political party, and a digital newspaper We are planning to go to Scotland soon to start international relationship, and we having on-site meetings with people who want to know about the Catalan resistance. People comes with information, and that's something that is very important. We are gonna bring about independence the only possible way, which is by demolishing the so-called Catalan official indie movement, which is totally infiltrated by Spain. And the only way to bring down this fake pro-indie movement is by having information about their shenanigans and their betrayals. And every day, because we're having people that come from the other side, or people who tells us that now they realize why this and that didn't work for independence. So the example here, and I would like you to encourage to do the same in Scotland, is Catalan indie movement or Scottish independence movement are a big lie. It's deceptive. It's to keep us like mice in a wheel, without us looking and realizing that the SNP, the National, Wings of Scotland, Bella Caledonia, and so on work for the enemy. And it's the same thing in Catalonia. So this situation, as we tell here in Catalonia, the way to bring that about is lie is a gigantic balloon. When we started this, we were having a bow and an arch and an arrow, a bow and an arrow, and we were trying to burst that balloon of lies, but was perfectly covered by shields of millions of people that knowingly or not knowingly protect this lie, because they believe in our leaders, because they believe in our media, because they believe in cunning plans, the long game. Nicola knows better, or Artur knows better, or Carla. Everybody knows better. There's no logical explanation why Catalonia and Scotland are still not independent, but people are blinded by cognitive dissonance, so they cannot accept we've been betrayed by our side. So, but this is changing every day in Catalonia, and we're having people that are stopping protecting the lie. They're crossing the line, they're picking a bow and an arrow, and they're shooting to try to burst the balloon. So that brings a double advantage, because the holes in the armor of the corruption are bigger, but there's more people shooting. So that multiplies the chances of making it. But not only that, people stop protecting them, but they come with valuable information. This last week we've learned things about Carles Puigdemont, about all the main movers and shakers, about the grassroots organizations that prove or that confirm or that pile up with the information we already have, that nothing you have heard about, no political party, no media, no grassroots organization, no vedette or not 5-minute hero on Facebook, they all work for Spain. And without acknowledging that trauma and getting over it, there's no chance for independence. So, following with the example or with a metaphor, every time somebody crosses over to our side, they leave a space in the balloon, but they come with information. They say, oh, Puigdemont doesn't work for independence, I've known him for a whole life. Or Luis Llach, this singer that seems to be for independence, I've known him my whole life and he confessed to me several times he despises independence. Or you name it. That's our reality now, is this people listening to this program and saying, oh, David, can we meet for a coffee? Now I understand this, now I understand that. So not only we have more archers, not only we have bigger holes in the armor, but we have better weapons, because this is a war based on information. Every day we have more people. These people were former defenders of the lie, and these people come with superior weaponry. So it's just a matter of time. We're gonna win, and we're gonna bring about independence. But not only that, but I have to say that when they say that the trip on itself is better than the destination, I have to say I learned this to be so much the truth. We're having people who've been fighting the elements for years, sometimes decades, to manage to build their own house in the wilderness. People facing corrupt crooks in remote parts of Catalonia. People who have been attacked in so many ways by the powers that be. And these people is an enormous civic army that are gathering strength, and we won't stop till we've won. And that's why it's a privilege to be part of the ruling committee of the Catalan resistance. And we know we're seeing changes every day. They don't let Catalan people know about us, but we are not stopping till we've won. This week has been sad because the treason of our leaders has become evident. Artur Mas was president of Catalonia from 2010 to 2015. The myth construction of the in the official side, which is unionist in disguise, made him look like the one that started the process in 2012, but it is the contrary. Catalan independence process had been started in Arenys de Munt in a non-binding consultation in 3,000 people village in a consultation for independence. That set up the alarms running in Spain, so they had to put their double agent like Artur Mas in charge of it. Most people don't know that Artur Mas was pardoned for some tax evasion shenanigans in 2002. And he also murdered the Catalan Statute in 2006 by cutting it off in cahoots with Zapatero, the Spanish Prime Minister, so he betrayed us twice. Then in 2014 he made the non-binding referendum with a very weird two-tier question which made it impossible to do a normal referendum, and then he has been pushing for no independence while pretending to do so ever since then. And now this guy, which is the one I started fighting 4 years ago, and who stepped down from being prime minister to putting in his place Carles Puigdemont, which is elected by Spain in dark offices. Now he steps down from the political party that he was still the leader of, saying that we don't have a majority and we don't have majority for independence, which is a lie. But on the other hand, it's a victory for resistance because I'm still here and Artur Mas is not. But not only that, this week Carme Forcadell, the former president of parliament, decides that she's not taking it back again. Then we have Carles Puigdemont, which is in some shenanigans about he's gonna be president through Skype, or he's gonna be president through an intermediary person, or very weird things. And we have 3 Catalan parties all fighting one another. And for the first time there's some articles in press saying that we should have new leaders, but they haven't reached to us after 4 years. So what we really think is that there's some people there in the shadows crawling that are working for the new fake independentist party that will be created by Spain. And then we've had Oriol Junqueras, which is vice president of Catalonia, which is still in prison, but that he might appear depending on some of the combinations. If Carles Puigdemont cannot back, he could be the president. But as we know, both Carles Puigdemont #1 and Oriol Junqueras #2, as we explained in chapter 3 and 4 here in Radio Hadrian, they've been infiltrated by Spain for at least 25 years, Junqueras, and around 15 Carles Puigdemont. So they both work for the other side. That's why they declared independence fakely twice. And Puigdemont ran away and Junqueras surrendered. But none of them gave them the chance to people to defend them. And then we go to 3 people. One of them is the interior minister, and the other 2 are the 2 Jordis, Jordi Sánchez and Jordi Cuixart, which are the leaders of the 2 main grassroots organizations. And they've been in prison for a couple of months. And the sadness of it all is that they have betrayed us in such a way. Joaquim Forn, which happens to belong to the same student union I did, and he is quite instrumental in the false flag attacks in Barcelona on the 17th of August. And he is also instrumental in the 1st of October violence against population by not avoiding it. He, cool as a cucumber, says that the only way to independence is to reform the Spanish constitution, which is something that Mariano Rajoy could say himself, or Arrimadas, or Rivera, or our worst enemies. This guy was put in place recently, and in one former chapter I mentioned I didn't trust the guy with a barge pole. Then bang! We're sorry, but we're always getting it right here in Radio Hadrian in advance, because we know the script. It's not that we're doing spoilers about this film. We know it's a film, we know the script. But they keep doing it because they think they're gods and they think they control every media, and it doesn't matter if we know in advance what they do it anyways. And the joking form is the snake in the grass. And then we have Jordi Sanchez, and Jordi Sanchez is part of the reason we named this The Betrayal of the Leaders. The Betrayal of the Leaders is a book from Catalan activist and humanist Lluís Maria Xirinacs. He left for 75 years, and then he was ill and he let himself die by going into the wilderness, and was found 5 days after that. He did that on his 75th anniversary. And his book Betrayal of the Leaders was the book I started to read when I was forcefully interned in the mental ward, and read it till the chemical torture made it difficult for me to read something so elaborate. It's a trilogy, and how I got as far as the first book, as far as I know. And this Jordi Sanchez, which is the leader of Assemblea Nacional Catalana, which is the main grassroots organization supposedly for independence, but actually it's an independence that it's an organization that was made to clean the grassroots organizations and to make it pyramidal. Then he comes out and says that he renounces the unilateral way. Spain has said that they'll never negotiate, and then this guy says that he renounces the one-way, the unilateral declaration of independence, and that if his party follows it, he'll quit his seat in parliament. So you are in prison for something that you knew it was worthless the 1st of October? I'm sorry, but I don't buy it. And we have this problem. We have a lot of awake people that don't buy it, and we need to awake the rest, because otherwise they're going to slaughter independence, and we're going to lose the best chance we've had in more than 300 years. So we won't let this happen. This Jordi Sanchez was already present in this book by the humanist Lluís Maria Xirinacs that presides this chapter. And he was already mentioned with the bad guys 25 years ago. And we know people who know that he's not an independentist. So why should a non-independentist person be put in charge of a pro-India organization to make it fail? It doesn't require a lot of intellect, does it? It only requires the will to open your eyes. And that's what we're trying to do from independence. And then we have the Jordi Cuixart, which is the leader of Òmnium Cultural, which is the other grassroots organization, initially cultural, but then it turned into something more pro-India recently. And he says that the only referendum worth it is the one agreed with Spain. And then it comes back to what we've said here so many times, that the world Spanish and Catalan infiltrated leaders is to have a Scottish-style referendum that would be rigged and that we would lose. And it's not only rigged the day of the referendum. They've been rigging it with violence, with moving companies, with putting a clause in Leo Messi's contract to scare people about the losing Messi, so they would vote against independence. And we've been betrayed. I mean, it doesn't... we've been saying it for 4 years. I've been incarcerated for saying that they would betray us, and they betrayed us, and now they try to find an excuse. But we're not letting off the hook. We are the Catalan resistance. We don't recognize any of these leaders. We're creating new leaderships, new parties, and new movement, and we're gonna win. About this Marc Serra Pares, possibly there you might not know it. It's a matter of you finding who the equivalent might be. It's a guy that appeared out of nowhere 2010. I met him in a political party called Solidaritat, which would be the equivalent of Solidarity. He was weird. He was sabotaging our own party. He's been doing lots of weird things, but he gets sponsored posts left, right, and center. He has a following of tens of thousands. A lot of them are fake profiles of himself, which is supposed to have between 50 and 100. And this guy is saying that it is the people that has to do the revolution, and that we should do a strike and cut the economy of Catalonia, and that would scare Europe into mediating to have a negotiation. And he keeps insisting we are, the pro-India side, we are the 48%, which is a lie. But that reminds me, and I remember I was one of the first, if not the first person, to say we shouldn't be doing things about we are the 45 groups on Facebook, etc. This 45 thing was started by London to instill in our mind that we had lost the referendum instead of having won the referendum and being sold for English gold by the SNP. So now it's the same thing. We have this vedette, this invented Spanish undercover agent Marc Serra Pares, a guy that will face criminal charges related to my criminal internment because he collaborated to it by slandering. He says that it's 48% and that we should force mediation. So now we know that's very essential when you place a spy, and then I'm sorry, but they don't have it imprinted in their face, or they don't have a contract. These people, it's very important because what they tell us to do is what Spain wants us to do. He is only following orders of Spain. So this movement, as we announced already, this movement to force strikes here is in Spain's benefit, so we shouldn't fall for it. We should unmask people like Marc Serra Pares and the equivalent you have in Scotland. Today I feel minutes for something completely different. It would be 1,000 times better if it was Jordi Bilbeny himself who was capable of saying this in English. That's not the case. So I want to give you something that is unique. This Friday I had the opportunity to spend 2 hours with Jordi Bilbeny, which is a free thinker and intellectual that for 28 years he has discovered the real story about the Colombo discovery of America and lots of other things that have stolen from Catalan history that will change Catalan history forever. And it was in Arenys de Munt, which on top of that is the place where the Catalan Indie movement restarted in 2009 by having this non-binding election. I hadn't been there since that day. And we entered together, to enter with somebody you respect so much and that's so relevant in culture in Catalonia, and to enter at the place you were 8 years ago where the indie movement really reignited itself. It's a day to remember. And then Jordi showed him to his home, gave me a couple of books, because we're gonna try to wake up people to the real story of the discovery. The whole thing about Columbus being from Genoa, it's an invention. It's an invention both by Franco and Mussolini, because Colom, everything shows to be Catalan from Barcelona, Joan Colom y Bertran. Because nothing we've heard from the Venetian, the Genoan Colombo rings any bell with somebody who should be a lawyer, a navigator, all the kind of things than the guy from Genoa never was. This story is amazing. It's a film. It's like something made to be a film, and I'm gonna collaborate with Jordi to try the real story to come out, because he's been selling it for 28 years. It was so great to be in his sanctuary or in his studio with books. You know how it goes on floor, every left, right and center. It's amazing how he can reach by a very narrow path to the computer, to the door. And with Jordi we dedicated 2 hours and we talked together, and we realized that it's very similar. The conspiracy of 500 years ago to hide everything about the discovery and the conspiracy now to murder independents are very similar. The difference is that he needs documents because people don't tend to be alive for 500 years. But I'm getting information through witnesses that every day they contact me after they hear this program and say, oh, I have information for you, let's meet, let's do this. And for him it's like unearthing documents. But the main thing is as follows. The discovery of America, and I say we don't agree with anything that happened to Native Americans, and all those things are genocide and we don't support that. We're just talking about the actual fact of organizing something which was a feat around that time, because there was the competence between Castile, which is more or less nowadays Spain, and Catalonia, or Crown of Aragon, which was mainly Catalonia, to have the discovery. And the thing goes as follows. Censorship was essential then, but censorship not the way we conceive it today, which is important, because it's the same thing. They change the truth today totally, okay? But we're changing of totally forging history. At the end of the 20s, Luis Ulloa, a Peruvian historian, had already found out that Colom was Catalan. But then there was the coup in Spain, and he was friends with Mussolini, so they both jointly decided to push the Genoan story, and then they changed things. But this thing alone tells that Catalans are not Spanish, because if Catalans were Spanish, why would Franco to push the Genoan Colombo instead of a Catalan, thus Spanish Colom? Something to think about. But through years and years, Jordi, he started realizing that Colom could have been born in Galicia or in Genoa or in Barcelona, everywhere. It was different versions. So he wanted to do a novel, and he started investigating. It's a bit the same thing that happened with me with the tricky question about the referendum. You start, and then you find out 1,000 times more than you expected. And then he realized the importance of censorship around that time, and it was like Inquisition. Spanish Inquisition was terrible. So they used Inquisition to murder, torture, and threaten people that had the truth about the discovery of America, because they forged everything in it. The place where it came out, it's supposed to be Palos de Moguer, official story tells us, which is a remote place that was barely connected to water, and it was a nothing place. While to do something as to go to America, you needed cartographers and sailors and scientists, people that were not to be found there. And then Jordi found out a map of what is supposed to be Palos de Moguer. Nothing like that ever existed there. And then he realized that in Palos, more or less the same name in Girona, it was the same map of around that time. So they changed the departing place. The chronicles have been totally forced. We have dresses that are typically Catalan, names that are typically Catalan. The words even been written in Spanish are typically Catalan lots of time. The institutions that were set up in America, like the consulates or contract houses or birras, royalties, were essentially Catalan institutions. So how could Spain, that didn't have these institutions back home, how would they set them anew if it was not Catalan? We have, but the important is that we're talking about that people were sentenced to death to take away all their documentation about the real story of the discovery. We even have letters with the writers of letters confirming that the censorship had changed things, and Jordi has dedicated 28 years to find the inconsistencies. Some of them, which is one of my favorite, is in the chronicles it says, after a few days we crossed Gibraltar. You have to imagine this as censors receiving the order that they have to make something which is a Catalan discovery to turn it into a Spanish discovery, and they start changing names and doing things, but some of them were not very bright. So Palos de Moguer, the official truth place, is closer to America than the Strait of Gibraltar. So when after a few days departing to the west of Gibraltar, you are crossing Gibraltar, where you're gonna end up in Mallorca or Ibiza, not in America, isn't it? So the only way you can cross Gibraltar after a few days is if you started in Catalonia or around that area. The same happens with lots of other inconsistencies. The coat of arms, the age of birth, everything shows that it was a Catalan adventure, that through murder, destruction of documents, forgery, censorship, fear, has been turned into a Spanish thing. We'll keep you informed on this, because Jordi is a person that we hope to make known to the whole world. I think there's a big film in this, because we're talking about one of the main feats in history of humankind, and everything is false. The same way as our nowadays fight for independence is false. It's time to wake up. We're doing this, we're gonna do this, we're gonna set Scotland free, and we're gonna make Catalunya lliure. Visca Catalunya lliure!
This is Hadrian Radio, coming to you from Free Catalonia, aka Radio Production.